Welcome to From the Trenches, success shortcuts revealed by real-world innovators crushing it right now. I'm your host, Scott Hartley, and we're back with another episode packed with actionable strategies from today's most successful entrepreneurs. If you're tired of generic business advice and ready for real, cutting-edge tactics that are working right now, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving deep into how to get appointments with prospects who want to pay you to solve their problems. And I can't wait for my guest to share with you his transformational insights. So let me introduce you to Dave Dee. For over 25 years, Dave has been helping professional service providers, coaches, and consultants attract high-quality leads, turn them into appointments, and convert them into clients. Dave started his entrepreneurial journey as a struggling professional magician. He became a serious student of marketing and sales, and by applying what he had learned, he went from doing 3 shows a month to over 25 shows a month in less than 90 days. Word of his success spread, and people started asking him to speak at prestigious business conferences worldwide to tell his story and to teach his methods. And for 4 years, Dave was the chief marketing officer for the company founded by legendary marketing expert Dan Kennedy. But like most of us entrepreneurs, Dave decided that the corporate world wasn't for him, and he went back out on his own. And business owners quickly started asking Dave for help, and his mentoring business was born. Dave, I'm so excited to have you on the call today.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I loved how you emphasized the word in the title of this, want to do business with you, appointments with prospects who want to do business with you. And that's one of the things I really want to touch upon today is how we can distinguish ourselves, whether you're a professional service coach, consultant, doesn't make any difference. How you distinguish yourself from everybody else in the marketplace who's providing the same service as you. So
Yeah.
when you get that appointment with a prospect, they're already sold on working with you and not just on getting the outcome that they desire.
Yeah, that's really important is, because when somebody schedules an appointment with you, like you said, they already they know their need, they're looking to have it solved. They're just finding that right person that they can trust and that they can have respect for to say, you're the one I want to help me solve this problem, right? So yeah, so let's kind of dive into that. Like what are some of the things that we need to be cognizant of as we're having these appointments with people?
Yeah, so let's first talk about some principles because I think it's really important, and there's some game changing principles in here.
Hmm.
The first is that your very best prospects, who will turn into your best clients, are very interested in who they are doing business with,
Yeah.
and not just in, well, I need a financial advisor, I need an estate planning attorney. They are really interested in the person. And in fact, the higher up on the income ladder that someone goes, the
Hmm.
more that becomes prevalent.
Sure.
And so, what we want to do before we even get to the appointment is ensure that the prospect, number one, is qualified. And we'll discuss how to do that. Number two, that they already, as you mentioned, that they already trust us, that
Hmm.
they already consider us to be the expert and the authority,
Hmm.
and that they are ready to make a buying decision. So they've reached the point where they are saying, hey, I've got to solve this problem. I'm ready to solve this problem, and I'm ready to pay to have this problem solved.
Hmm.
Because it's not just the number of appointments that we get, it's not just the number of leads that we get. It is the quality of those leads. And so
Sure.
I only want to be talking to people, and I sell high ticket stuff. So I sell, anywhere from 15,000 to 25,000 and up. And
Hmm.
so I'm actually doing this. I just closed a $25,000 sale just yesterday with a single strategy session.
Hmm.
And the reason is, though, not because I'm so great at closing the sales, because the person was pre-sold on me before they got to talk to me.
Yeah.
And that makes it so much more enjoyable. And you're not just meeting with people who, as one of my mastermind members, a financial advisor, Dan Caprell, calls them info hogs, people that are just looking to, quote, pick your brain and get free information.
Hmm.
And they're trying to find the lowest cost provider. Right. And so the first principle is, let's get them Let's get these people on the calendar who are sold on us and are working with us, can afford to pay our fees, and are ready to make that buying decision. So it's kind of intuitive. Everyone is teaching, let's speed up the process. Let's get as many of these, get our calendar filled. And I don't subscribe to that
Yeah.
because you waste a lot of time and there's a lot of frustration involved in that. So we actually want to make people jump through some hoops before they get to us. The next principle, and this was a game changer for me. This was what really, you mentioned I went from doing, 3 shows a month to 25 shows a month,
Hmm.
or 5 shows a month to 25 shows a month in less than 90 days. Now, this was, 30 something years ago, but this principle stuck with me ever since. And the principle does come from Dan Kennedy. And the principle is this, and most people don't like it. So I'll preface it with that, and I didn't like it either. But the principle is this, is that it's more important to be a master marketer than it is a master of your craft.
Yeah.
Now, what Dan was not saying is that you shouldn't do a good job. That's
Right.
not what he was saying. That's what a lot of people interpret it.
Hmm.
And the fact is, in a perfect world, maybe the person that was the very best at what they do got the business and was the most successful. But you and I both know, Scott, that that's not the case. It's
There's a lot of
really,
broke experts out there.
there's
People
a
who are
lot of broke
really good
experts out
at
there.
doing what
Yeah.
they do, right?
Yeah. And by
Yeah.
the way, I was taught, so I figured if I just, going back to when I was a magician, if I just practice and I got really good at what I did, because that's
Hmm.
what we're all taught.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what the profession is, we're all taught that.
Yeah.
So the lawyer, the person that goes to law school, they're not taught about business. They're not taught about marketing, the financial, same thing. And so once that clicked for me, wow, I'm not just a provider of my service. More importantly, I'm a marketer of my service. And
Hmm.
so when because that put the focus on where it had to be, and that's what began to change everything. So
Yeah.
that those two principles are one that, as we go through the model, and I'm going to give lay out the model for everybody. It is those two principles are really, really mission critical.
Sure.
Uh, yeah, really, really mission critical. So my model, and it's the one, and I've had, and not because of me, because they implemented some of the stuff that we're going to talk about. I've had folks literally double their business. I have 2 financial advisors that literally doubled their business in a year by
Wow.
following this exact model that I'm going to lay out for everyone, and had more free time because they were only dealing with people, for the most part, who met that criteria that we talked about earlier. Those are
Yeah.
the people who they were meeting with. So the first thing is we've got to generate leads, right?
Hmm.
And in order to do that, we need to define who our market is. I mean, this is marketing 101, but I look at a lot of professionals and a lot of coaches and a lot of experts, and they don't have that defined. They don't, who are we actually going for? Who is our ideal client?
Yeah.
Because we want to target those folks. Now, there's a difference between traffic and leads.
Mm.
So, Scott, if you were to say to me, Dave, how do I drive traffic? I would say, Scott, I'm the last person to ask that question to. I don't I don't know how to go into Facebook and pick the markets and all of that. I don't
Right.
need to know that. What I need to know is who my target market is and get folks who know LinkedIn, who know Facebook, who know direct mail or whatever it is to find those people for me. So leads, I consider a lead. Traffic is what you drive to your website. Okay, so
Hmm.
that's traffic. It becomes a lead when they give you their contact information.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just real quick,
Yeah.
so listeners, if you've been listening to, these podcast episodes over the last several, months now, like almost every single episode, my guest has said, you've got to figure out who you're going after, who's that ideal customer. And then again, what Dave's pointing out here, it's the foundation to this entire methodology.
Yeah, because if you don't know who it is, and I mean precisely know who it is, it's going to be very, very difficult to, number one, find them cost effectively. But number two, which is really more important, is to create a message that resonates with them.
Hmm.
So we want to know exactly what our prospect really is feeling, what they fear, what keeps them awake at night. staring at the ceiling, unable to fall asleep. Because
Yeah.
if we know that, and not on a surface level, so nobody wants an estate plan. We'll just use that as an example. Nobody wants an estate plan.
Right.
Okay. And so nobody wants, we go back, nobody wants a magician. Okay.
Hmm.
Nobody wants to pay a magician, but they do want to have an unforgettable event.
Sure.
And so we want to figure out, what do our prospects want? What pain are they in that we can solve? Because people are motivated by pain.
Hmm.
And in order to do that, we need to know who they are. But
Yeah.
once we know that, then we can create what has been coined a lead generation magnet. Okay. Now,
Hmm.
what is a lead generation magnet? It can be many different things. One of my favorite lead generation magnets are webinars, and we can discuss those.
Hmm.
And why a webinar? And by the way, not the way that the gurus are teaching you to do webinars where they get to pick a time or it starts at the top of every hour. That that is not the best way to do it. I promise you. I'll share with you the best way to do an evergreen webinar in just a minute. It's a big tip. But again, the webinar has to have a super hot title,
Hmm.
right? And the title's got to appeal to your ideal target market.
Yeah.
And so, well, let's say you're doing Facebook advertising. Well, the title's mission critical, but also is the ad, because in lead generation, and this is what we used to call a writer downer. There's two things we want to accomplish. We want to attract the right person with our ad, and we want to repel or dissuade the person that is not our ideal prospect from responding. So
Yeah.
this is the first part of the filtering process, is in this lead generation
And that's kind
methodology.
of a foreign concept to a lot of people, because when you hear, oh, you want to repel people, it's like, no, I want everybody to like me. I want everybody to get, but that's not going to help us grow our business. We've got to focus on those people that really are in need of our services and that we know that we can help.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And so we target that message, whether it's in a webinar title, whether it's a book that we're using as a lead magnet, whether it's a report, whether it's a downloadable PDF, physical book, shock and awe box that whatever it is, it's got to appeal to our target market. One of
Hmm.
the reasons I like webinars is that it is an additional hoop that someone needs to jump through.
Yeah.
Because so a webinar lead, someone who signs up for webinar and actually shows up for the webinar, is a really good prospect,
Yeah.
because it is a bigger hurdle than, downloading a white paper or downloading a PDF. Now, just so you know, your cost per lead will typically be higher, but you're getting a more qualified person. But let's say you want to use a report or an ebook. That's all fine.
Hmm.
So we drive them to the webinar. They give us their contact information in exchange for this piece of information. Nothing earth-shaking or new here. But this whole targeting and the title of this thing is really mission critical. And then it's got to deliver. Now, this is where it gets a little bit different, because we know that the vast majority of people, the vast majority, are not ready yet to schedule that appointment with us,
Hmm.
nor do we want them to be, because they don't know anything about us yet.
Yeah.
And so, what the big mistake that people make is that they focus on only the people, the very small percentage of people who schedule an appointment right away, and we know that most of those people won't do it.
Hmm.
So, what we want to do to really turn, as my friend Dean Jackson says, turn lead generation from an expense to a capital investment, is that we need to have a follow-up system in place with multiple touches. And for me, and you're a master of this, I believe that email is the best way to make that happen,
Yep.
to follow up with people. Now, what we do and what we teach, just so everyone gets the complete model, is after somebody requests the lead magnet, we deliver that to them.
Hmm.
Okay. And now we do a double opt-in. I don't know what your feelings are about that, but we
Yeah.
do a double opt-in.
Really, really important.
Okay. Okay, good. So I'm doing it
Yeah.
right. All
Yeah. You're
right.
doing it
Well,
right.
I did read your book, by the way, as you know. So, all right, just want to make sure it didn't change. So we
No.
do a double opt-in, but then what we do is we have an automated email that goes out, about 30 minutes after that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the email, now, I need everyone to follow me. The email seems personal and it asks them a basic question. So in our case, the email that goes out from us, the email basically says, hey, I see that you opted in. Now, we don't try to fool them into, thinking that it's, I'm sitting there typing it, right?
Yeah.
But we don't say that it's not. And here's where, and it asks a simple question. So it says, hey, is the biggest problem that you have right now getting enough appointments or closing appointments? Once closing the sale, once you have them on an appointment. And when people respond to that, first of all, that's really good, as you know, for email deliverability, because someone is now actually responding.
Yeah.
Then we respond to every email that comes in. And so someone will say, oh, my biggest problem is getting enough quality appointments.
Mm-hmm.
So we will then respond to that with another email, creating an actual email like a human being communicates with another human being,
Yeah.
right? So that's not an autoresponder because it can't be, because
Right.
I want to see what the response is,
Yeah. And that's
right?
really important because you've got a new lead. And when, and they probably know that that first email that's coming out is probably an automated email. But then when they reply back to it and they get a response, they're like,
Right.
holy crap, like nobody does
Holy
that.
crap is right. And so what we're doing is we're beginning to get that um, bridge that gap. So we're starting to build that trust. Wow, this is a real person. And you know how
Mhm.
many people are doing this? Almost none.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And so when they get a response, they can't believe it. And when it's in the same email thread,
Yeah.
so then they know, wow, I'm actually having a real conversation with somebody. Now, that conversation can lead to an appointment, but it might not. And that's all fine.
Yeah.
We have zero neediness. The number one killer in selling is neediness.
Hmm.
Okay. Whether you're trying to close the sale, the prospect can feel it. So we don't want to have any neediness. And then what we do after that is we send out, we now, even if we're using a lead, so I've got a webinar as a lead magnet. I have one of my newsletters, my premium newsletters as a lead magnet. I think that's what we're offering everybody.
Yeah.
We have a book as a lead magnet. So we've got different lead magnets.
Yeah.
And so what everything always will lead to, though, at some point is a webinar. Why? Because I want people there is no better way than people to see me,
Hmm.
hear my story, right? Hear how I relate to them, demonstrate my expertise, and if structured correctly, get the right prospects to schedule an appointment with me.
Yeah.
There is, I have not found a better methodology than that. So
Hmm.
how does the webinar work? So we don't have time to go over the structure. I mean, I teach that, but we don't have time to go over the structure. But here is a really big tip for folks who already have a presentation. Number one, it's always better to deliver it live in almost every case,
Hmm.
because now you're having real interaction with your audience. And the big mistake I see that people make is with a webinar is they create it, they record it, and they put it on autopilot. Well, the first time you do a presentation, guess what? It's probably not going to be great.
Yeah.
And I want to get audience feedback involved, right? So I recommend the first number of them you do live,
Yeah.
right? Once a month, you just do it live. And we use email to promote it to our list.
Hmm.
So, but if you are going to automate it, and I've got one of my mastermind members, Barb, who's a financial advisor, doubled a business with this exact strategy. So Barb created, I think, 4 to 6 different webinars.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Now here's the strategy. And this is counterintuitive. This is not what everyone else is teaching. The way to and the way that she automated those and she evergreen those, okay, was not the strategy where someone comes to the webinar registration page and they could sign up on demand. They can pick a date tomorrow. It's not that at all.
Hmm.
What you want to do, and I promise you, if you do it this way, you're going to get way better results, is you want to have your webinar, even if it's automated, even if it's evergreen, you want to have your webinar at a specific on a specific day at a specific time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what Barb does. So every week she's promoting a different webinar. The call to action is the same. It's to schedule a consultation with her.
Mm-hmm.
But so someone doesn't pick. And so when they see an ad for a Facebook ad for webinar, it's Thursday at, I'm just making this time up, at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Eastern. They
Yeah.
go to the page, they sign up. You get a much higher show up rate. Again, we're not saying that it's live because that would not be in integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And we're saying that the webinar is happening at 4 o'clock on Thursday, which it is.
Yeah.
Okay. You get a higher show up rate. The problem with a full length webinar, so let's say your webinar is 75 minutes long, is if you have it on demand, people may start to watch it, but the drop off is huge because
Mm-hmm.
somebody doesn't have 75 minutes on their calendar.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, or they, if they can see like, oh, this is going to start in 5 minutes, and then it's like, well, if I don't have time to watch this whole thing now, well, I can always come back to the page and catch it
Correct.
tonight. Yeah.
Yes,
So there's no
correct.
incentive to stay.
100% correct. And so this is a real key piece. So we've got one that whenever somebody joins the list, depending on which one it is, we've got a webinar that plays at 4 o'clock on Thursdays.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the promotion, if they come in on a Tuesday, they don't get the promotion for that webinar, for that following webinar until starting on Monday, because we have found that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is a great length. 4 days is plenty of time to promote a webinar.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got it set up so they're getting the invitation. Doesn't matter if they come in on a Wednesday, they don't start getting an invitation to the following webinar, just like I was doing it if I was doing it live. And by the way, I do most of my webinars live. This one is just particularly not that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you get a much higher conversion. Now, one of the things, just very briefly on webinars, number one is you want to start with a big promise. Okay. You want to start with a big promise about, hey, in the next 45 minutes, you're going to discover this, and this is going to be the outcome for you.
Mm-hmm.
You want to teach between 3 and 5 pieces of information. I recommend 3, not more.
Mm-hmm.
You want to tell people what to do, not how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Don't get technical. And then make a really strong offer. But one of the key pieces here, going back to one of the principles we talked about, which was only having people schedule appointments with us who are qualified
Mm-hmm.
and meet our criteria that we talked about at the beginning. One of the keys is you want to have a section before you fully disclose what your offer is, who this is not for.
Yep.
Okay. So, hey, before I tell you about this, let me tell you who this is not for. This isn't for you. Let's just say you're a financial advisor. I would say, and I only want to deal with clients who have $500,000 to $1 million in investable assets. Well, I would say this is not for you if you have less than $500,000 in investable assets.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because the strategies that we employ only work when you're at that level. There'll
Yeah.
be other advisors who can help you, but so we want, again, the point is not to see how many appointments we can get on the calendar. It's to see how many good appointments we can get on the calendar.
Yeah. Because you've got a much better chance of closing that person, if you know that they're in that sweet spot of who you can help. And I think, a lot of us, and that also, you mentioned earlier that, you don't want to come across as needy. When you
Right.
tell people like, these are the only people that I work with, this isn't for you, that immediately dispels that neediness, because it's like, okay, well, I only have $100,000 in investable assets. Well, she obviously doesn't need me as a client, but there's no ill will there, because
No,
it's
there's
very
no
clear.
ill will at all. And by the way, that should have been in the ad.
Yeah.
That should be on the landing page. That should be in the confirmation emails. That should be everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And exactly, there's no ill will at all. It's just, hey, this isn't for you. I'm not the right person for you. But
Right.
what that does is, for the person you are the right person for, they say, well, that's not me. I do have $1 million in investable assets. Wow, this might be a good fit for me.
Yeah.
Okay. And so now that's not the only hoop. So the next hoop is they don't go directly to the calendar page. They've got to fill out an application, a questionnaire,
Hmm.
something beforehand where you are getting. Now, there's a couple of reasons for it. Number one is you do want to gather information before you talk to somebody.
Yeah.
So, and number two, it's another hoop, right? So, uh, Cialdini, in his seminal book, in Influence, talks about consistency and commitment. So, think about what someone's done. They've seen their ad. They've in this particular scenario, they've seen the ad. They've clicked on it. They've gone to a webinar registration page. They have signed up for the webinar. They've showed up for the webinar. This is just, they're being more and more consistent with their actions. They've
Hmm.
watched the entire webinar. They've clicked the link. They have filled out an application form. They've scheduled time. That's a really good prospect.
Absolutely. Getting people to actually do things, that's a huge accomplishment
Yes.
nowadays,
Yeah.
right?
It's huge. And now here is the truth about all of that. Guess what? Most of those people who will come to your webinar, they're not going to sign up for the consultation. This is just reality.
Yeah.
Studies have shown it takes up to 18 to 24 months out of people who will work with someone in your field to make that decision that now is the time. And
Hmm.
as marketers, there's certain things that we can do, but the truth is that when they're ready, they're ready.
Yeah.
And we want to be the ones that are the obvious experts.
Yep.
So the way that we do that, the way that we teach is through sending emails every week, value-based emails that are infotaining, the
Hmm.
combination of entertainment and information.
Yeah.
So infotaining emails. And so in my case, we send out what we call our daily D-mail. Get
Hmm.
it? D-mail. Okay. Yeah, I know, bad. The daily D-mail, and every day, Monday through Sunday, every day, we
Yep.
send out an email. And most people would say, well, my prospects don't want to hear from me that much. And I am not even saying you need to send out an email every day. For most professional service providers, I would say at least 3 times a week.
Hmm.
Barb, Joe, the ones that have doubled their business, do send out a daily email to
Yeah.
their list. And these are financial advisors, these are CPAs, these are attorneys. Um, as you know, the key is not that they don't want to get boring emails.
Right.
So they don't want to get, you don't want to put technical stuff. You want to have this much entertainment, a ton of and then one lesson.
Hmm.
Now we don't have time, and I'd be happy to come back on if the audience likes this, and we could talk about how to write these type of emails. But these entertaining emails with that have a lesson, there's got to be a payoff for the reader, is
Hmm.
mission critical, because then at the end of that, there's always the call to action. Hey, if you're ready to, so for example, I've got folks that are in the tax resolution business.
Hmm.
Hey, so if you're ready to get the IRS, if you're ready to get the IRS off your back once and for all and resolve your tax problem now, schedule a complimentary tax relief strategy session. Here's the link.
Hmm.
So that has the carrier of that call to action. And then, of course, when they click that link, they go to the application, fill out the application, get on the calendar.
Yeah.
And
So
so
there's
what
still a
happens?
hoop for
So,
them to jump through there. And just real quick, I'm on Dave's list, so I get his emails every single day. They are short, they're sweet, they're entertaining. You never know what he's going to talk about as far
yeah.
as the opening there. And his emails, like honestly, I know to expect it every single day. So when I'm first looking at my phone, when I first wake up in the morning, I know that that's a bad habit. A lot of people tell you don't check
So
your
do
email
I.
first thing, but Dave's is one of the first three emails that I read
Oh,
every
thank you.
single day. They are really that good, and they are great emails to model. So when we give you the opportunity here in a little bit to opt in for his free resource, you'll be added to his email list, I'm sure. So get those emails, study them, read them, and study them, because they're going to be a good lesson for you to model in what you can do for your own business.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that. So just to, I know we're up against the clock here. Um, and I'd love to come on and actually go over how to create these webinars. I would love to
Sure.
share that with your listeners at some point. But the whole key to this is to just to just sum this up is once you put this machine in place in your business, and you're following up, and you're doing like what we talked about with the emails, the personal emails that go out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when just think about it. When the prospect is ready to make that decision, that they are ready to solve their problem, who are they choosing? They're
Yeah.
choosing you. It's game over. It's not even close. And because you're showing up all the time with value. Now,
Mm-hmm.
value doesn't mean over teaching, by the way. It's a whole other topic. But when you're showing up with value and you are the expert, and
Mm-hmm.
they're going to want to do business with you.
Yeah.
And when they want to do business with you and not just get the result, they want the result, don't get me wrong. But when
Sure.
they want to do business with you in order to get the result, that's when price resistance goes away
Mm-hmm.
because they want you. They just don't. So what the big game changer for me, let's just tie it up into a nice bow because we talked about years ago when I was a professional magician.
Mm-hmm.
The game changer for me was when people leads stopped calling because they wanted a magician, when they were calling because they wanted Dave Dee at their event.
Mm-hmm.
That's when everything changed.
Yeah.
They weren't calling for a magician. They were calling for Dave Dee, the
Yeah.
magician,
Because you had solidified yourself as the magician
as the
that
magician. Yes.
everybody had to have at their event.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. And you can do the same. And when you're in that position, we started talking about, well, let's talk about how close the sale. Well, closing the sale, now you do need strategy and all of that, but it becomes infinitely easier when you're in that position,
Yeah.
as opposed to just having a cold lead on your calendar who's never heard of you before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this has been great. I mean, and I've attended several of your webinars. Obviously I'm on your email list, and I've been kind of in your world for a long
Yeah.
time. I got your book Sales Stampede, which I encourage everybody to go out and grab a copy of that as well. A lot of insightful, actionable information in that book. But this is what you've taught today is really, really crucial because most all of us are in industries where people can choose one of
That's
a
right.
number of people to do business with. And we all know that, there are people out there in our industries that they just don't do as good a job. They don't take care of their customers.
Right.
And if you're one of those that really do care about your clients and your customers, you do a great job delivering your service, then why not promote yourself and be the person, the business that everybody wants to do business with, that's the right fit type of client. And when you adopt these strategies, and I love the whole webinar. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of working on my business, kind of planning for the new year, because when we're recording this episode, it's in November. And so, I'm planning for 2025, and webinars are going to be part of my strategy, for generating qualified leads and turning those into appointments. Hearing that it works for you, knowing that it's worked for several of your other, mastermind clients, is amazing. So I really encourage people to take this information. Definitely, I want to have you back. There's so much more knowledge that you have that we can't just put into one
Right.
short episode. So, but you've got a free gift for our listeners. Tell us about that briefly.
Sure. I mean, and you will see that we follow the principles that I just outlined, right? So if you go to davedee.com, that's DAVEDEE.com, you can download a copy of one of my premium print newsletters. And this one is a really great one because it's all about adding personality to your marketing. So again, you're selling you and not just your service. So
Mm-hmm.
you can download that. You'll also get my daily D-mails. Of course, you can unsubscribe. Very few people do. I think you'll enjoy them. And you pointed out something which is important, which is to not just read them for the content, but read it for how they're written,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I mean, obviously, if I'm talking to prospects who aren't all marketers, I wouldn't tell them that. But for your group, yeah, you want to do that. You want to study those, and then you'll be invited to the webinars that we do. We do about a webinar a month.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you get all of that. It's absolutely free. And so you just go to davedee.com and it's that simple. And you'll actually see the process in action.
Awesome. Well, Dave, I really appreciate you spending some time with us today. We'll get you booked on to talk about webinars and talk about emails, a lot of different things. I mean, Dave's got a lot of experience in the entire world of marketing. He's helped so many people. Again, like we mentioned earlier, he was the chief marketing officer for GKIC Magnetic Marketing, and so he's got a lot of experience and a lot of stories to share
Oh,
from
lots
that
of
time as
stories.
well. So if you don't follow him on Facebook or LinkedIn, you need to follow him on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. So, well, that's all for today's episode of From the Trenches. Before we wrap up, just a reminder to go to davedee.com and grab your free digital copy of his premium print newsletter. And we'll have the link in the show notes as well. So in case you're not in a place where you can write that down, you can grab that a little bit later. And if you're looking to supercharge your email marketing, check out my book, Hit the Inbox, at hittheinboxbook.com. It's packed with 76 pages of strategies to get your emails landing in inboxes and driving sales. Thanks for tuning in today. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite platform. It helps us reach more entrepreneurs like you. And until next time, keep crushing it in the trenches.